Hey everybody, I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Michael.
And we are so glad you're with us today. And you might have noticed that it's not coffee with the pastors, plural, today. I've got my buddy Michael, and he did go to Bible college, got a degree from Bayside's Southeastern University.
Yep.
And so it's a Bible-based school and all, but let me tell you why he's here and not one of the other pastors. I'm getting a little sick, and none of them were brave. So we just got what we got. No, I'm just kidding. What happened was we had a little bit of a scheduling conflict, and I said, you know what? Let's bring in Michael today.
Oh, boy.
How you been, buddy?
I'm doing good. I'm honored to be here. Very
Awesome.
happy to be here. Excited to see what we're going to do today.
Absolutely, man. And so just, not everybody knows you. So why don't you tell them a little bit about, like, 30 seconds, what do you do here at the church?
Nothing. I'm just kidding. No, I'm the media and broadcast director here. So all these videos that you're seeing, I help record, edit, post, publish, put them online, broadcast our services, photography, all that fun stuff, all the technical things, making stuff look good. That's just my thing. That's what I do.
That's awesome. And you do a great job of it, for sure.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So he's used to being behind the camera, and now I got him in front of the camera for today. But I think we're going to have a lot of good conversation. So if you've been watching and tuning in, you know that we've been going through the book of Matthew, a different section each week. And so now we're in the section of Matthew chapters 14 through 20. And that is a lot of material.
A lot of material.
Yeah.
Really good stuff, though.
Jesus is there. He's doing a lot of parables, a lot of teachings.
Miracles.
That's it.
Ooh.
He does some incredible miracles in this section. So what I told Michael, what I want to do with you guys is we're just going to highlight like 4. We're not going to go through chapter by chapter. We're just going to look at 4 of our favorite incredible miracles that Jesus did, and we're just going to talk a little bit about them and get some spiritual nuggets out of it. So if you're ready,
We'll see.
let's do this. So
Cool.
What was the first one that you loved?
Man, the first one that really jumped out at me was at the bottom of Matthew 14. Jesus is walking on water.
Do what?
Yeah, so the disciples are going across the sea. They just got done feeding the 5,000. You know, Jesus got done breaking the bread and feeding the 5,000. They're going across the sea. And Jesus is like, y'all go on ahead. I'll catch up with you in a little bit. And
Which, by the way, you know that's a setup.
Yo, that's a setup. It's got to be. It's got to be.
Exactly.
And they trust him, which is good. You know, they go out there on their boat and they're in sea, and bam, this storm comes. And man, they are freaking out. They have no idea what to do. They're scared, and they don't know where Jesus is. And suddenly they see this figure, like just walking on the water, not this fast, but you know, walking on the water. And it's Jesus, and they think it's a ghost. They're like, oh my gosh, a ghost has come. It's a ghost, it's a ghost, it's a ghost. But it's Jesus, and Jesus is walking on the water. And like, this is that first miracle that really caught me. Like, number one, like the ability to do the impossible to us, you know, walking on water.
Yeah.
But the cool part wasn't just Jesus walking on the water and saying, don't be afraid, it's me. Was when Peter was like, Lord, if that's you, tell me to come to you.
Wow, yeah. I love that. Yeah. So if you had one spiritual truth that you would tell us that this is something that stuck out to me, what would it be that you want to encourage people with about that incredible miracle?
Yeah, well, I mean, the cool thing, and this like really applies to me in my life, you know, walking through lots of storms and a lot of battles and stuff. No
I see
matter
what you did
it is.
there.
Yeah, storms and battles. Yeah, whatever it is. Jesus is always like, come to me, keep your eyes focused on me. And the cool thing is like you can walk on the water with him. As long as you're focused on him, you know, you can do all things through Christ.
Very cool. I got one too, and it actually happened right before. You already alluded to it, which is the feeding of the 5,000. And so he just starts teaching them and sharing and helping them and serving them, and then the miracle happens. It's getting late, and so the evening starts to kind of come upon them, and the disciples are like, hey, Jesus, there's a lot of people here. It's kind of like bedtime. Why don't we just send them on out, right? I'm hungry. Yeah. Exactly. It kind of reminds me of maybe you were raised in church and used to go to something called camp meeting after church. That's the best eating right there.
It is. It is the best eating.
I'm just saying, like after church, it's like, let's go get something to eat. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So anyway, they've had church. Now they're hungry. All these other people are hungry. And Jesus is like, okay, well, then you feed them. They're like, hold up. So Jesus, I love this, verse 16. The disciples have told Jesus, we got to send them away. And here's what Jesus says. That isn't necessary. That ain't no big deal. You feed them. And so the disciples, they're like, well, wait a minute. We only have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fish. That ain't going to feed nobody. Jesus, he ends up praying for it, and he starts to have the disciples sit the people down, and all these people get fed. Jesus just breaking bread, breaking pieces of fish, giving it to the disciples. They're giving it to the people over and over. And then here's the cool part. 12 baskets of food are left over.
Wow.
How many disciples were there?
12.
How many baskets of food?
12.
What do you think Jesus is trying to do there? I think it's this. How many of you have ever had a time where you need God to show up and he does something that you can physically see? It's a lot harder for us to forget something when we have something tangible in our hands.
Yeah.
They held that basket and said, with God, anything's possible. My next one, I know you've got one too, but yours is so good at the end, segue.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to go ahead and do mine if that's okay. Here's my second one. I love this one. This is from Matthew chapter 17. And actually, a few months ago, maybe a little bit longer, Pastor Daniel actually preached this story, but it was from the book of Mark, okay? And the story is about a man who had a son who was demon-possessed. And he takes his son to Jesus to see if he could heal his son. But Jesus is not with his disciples at the moment. He's actually up on the mountain, and that's a whole story you need to read in Matthew 17. So this man brings his son to the disciples who are remaining, that are bottom of the mountain, and they're trying to see this guy get healed, but failed.
Huh.
Now here's the interesting thing. If you remember from a couple weeks ago in Matthew chapter 10, in Matthew 10, Jesus sent his disciples out. He gave them all authority.
Yeah.
They come back and had success. So all of a sudden, they can't do it.
Huh.
You know why? I think part of it's because they were relying on yesterday's power to do today's miracle. In other words, they thought because I've done this before,
It'll just happen again.
it's just going to happen again. Well, Jesus comes down off of the mountain and he hears the story about how his disciples couldn't do this. And he says these words in verse 17, and this is huge. Jesus said, and I'm reading from the New Living Translation, you faithless and corrupt people. He's talking to his disciples. Yeah.
Wow.
And then he says, how long must I be with you? Watch this. How long must I put up with you? That's just harsh, man.
Yeah.
You know? And I think part of it is Jesus knows that they can do this. He's seen them do it. They did it. They saw them do it. So Jesus says, bring the boy to me. And he does. He casts out the demon. And so then in verse 19, skipping down, the disciples, they say, hey, Jesus, why is it that we couldn't do this?
Valid question, right?
Valid, yeah.
Yeah.
But what Jesus says next is so huge. Verse 20, he says, you don't have enough faith.
Wow.
I just,
Ouch.
yeah. I wonder, think about your life right now. What are areas in your life that you've been praying to God for? Like, for some of you, you're struggling with a relationship. And you're like, God, when are you going to restore this marriage? When are you going to restore my kids in relationship with me? Or maybe you've been wanting to start that business and everything you do doesn't seem to work. And maybe you've been praying for healing in your body or your financial situation. And you're like, God, why is it that I can't see it happening? I'm wondering if what God might be saying, there's a lot of things he could say, but I wonder if one of the things he's saying is, you don't have enough faith. But you know how you build faith? What would you do if you had to build your faith?
Continue relationship with the Lord. Keep on praying. Keep on drawing in closer to Him, I guess. That would be my first thought.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we forget that it's the step by step. I'm going to read the Bible. It's going to build my faith. I'm going to share my faith. I'm going to get into worship, not just let it be songs on a screen on a Sunday morning, but it's going to be songs in my heart even through the week. That's it. And I'm focused on praying and seeking. I sought the Lord and He heard and He answered. And then your faith gets built up so that the little wins can help you build upon bigger wins that help you build upon bigger. And so Jesus looks at him and says, I tell you the truth. Verse 20, if you had faith even as small as a mustard seed, which is the smallest seed. I mean, I can't even make it that small, you know. You could say to this mountain, move from here to there.
Get on up.
Get on up.
Yeah.
And it would move.
Yeah.
And he says this, nothing. Go ahead and say it right there where you are in your group. Nothing is impossible. It's just incredible.
It is, truly. Like faith that small can move a mountain as big as a mountain is.
Exactly.
Insane.
And you know, that faith that was used to feed the 5,000, that faith that helped people walk on water,
Yep.
it's the same faith.
Same faith.
Now, some of you have other versions of the Bible. Again, I'm reading through the New Living, and they add another section to it. Some manuscripts from back in the day had in Matthew that there was another portion. The book of Mark has this already in there. And it's when Jesus then says, this type of demon can only be cast out by fasting and prayer.
Wow.
Now, I'm not going to get into all the theology of why that might be, but what I will say is this. In your life, you don't know what's going to happen today or tomorrow. So the only thing you can do is be prayed up and readied up. So you need to create a discipline of being in prayer as often as you can and fasting as often as you can. It prepares you for whatever comes your way. So one more.
Yeah.
What would be the next one you had?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, my next one, like my last one that I found, like I really loved, was in Matthew 20.
Yeah.
Jesus and the disciples are in Jericho, and they're walking out of the town, and there's this large crowd behind them following Jesus, and then there's two blind men on the side of the road, and they're crying out, and it says it here in verse 30, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us.
Yeah.
And the crowd was like, be quiet, shut up, stop talking. But they only shouted louder. And that really gets me. They only shouted louder, Lord, Son of David, have mercy on us.
Come on.
And I just want to stop there. Like that alone just speaks volumes to the fact when people are trying to silence your faith, silence you praying and speaking to the Lord, that is not a moment to get quiet and listen, but to instead shout the Lord's name louder, shout His praises louder, make your prayer requests known to Him. Constantly engage in that communication. Don't let it be shut down.
Amen. That's so good.
And then moving on with that, when Jesus heard them, He stopped and called, what do you want me to do for you? Jesus heard their prayer, their request, their outcry to Him, and gave them an answer. What is it that you want? Lord, they said, we want to see. And man, what an incredible thing to ask for in that moment. The ability to see. Now, yes, they're blind, I get that. But I think what Jesus is here for is not just the physical side of bringing sight to the blind. There's two people here. They are physically blind, but Jesus is not just in the world of healing the physical.
Come on.
But healing the spiritual, bringing sight to the spiritually blind, people living in spiritual darkness. Jesus felt sorry for them and touched their eyes. A simple touch, that's all it was this time.
Yeah.
Instantly they could see. And the next thing that just makes it all incredible, then they followed Him. Not only were they able to just see with their eyes, but now they're seeing Jesus, and they decide, I'm going to follow Him. He's the one that can physically restore sight to the blind man.
Yep.
He's going to continue to show me more things. I'm going to follow Him.
Come on.
That's
so
incredible
good.
to me.
And I love what you said about that whole sight thing. I think there's a lot of people who are blind, not physically, but spiritually to what God's wanting to do. What do you think?
I mean, I 100% agree. I think sometimes it's not even just blind inherently. Like sometimes it's a choice to be blind. It's like, we've got these lights on us right now and we're choosing to keep our eyes closed in the midst of it, trying to walk around. God, help me see, help me do what I'm supposed to do, help me get out of where I'm at right now. He's got the light on, open your eyes.
Yeah.
Oh,
wow.
hey, now I can see where I'm going. Now I'm going to stop tripping over all the things and get myself hurt. I'm going to not choose to walk in spiritual darkness.
Yes.
But I'm going to choose to focus my eyes in the light, keep my eyes open to the light of Jesus.
Come on.
Following His word.
That's so good. That's so good. Here's what I want you to do as we wind this down today. You know, Michael and I, we've been talking a little bit in preparation for today, and there seems to be a big theme through the book of Matthew about being able to see.
Yeah.
Not physically, even though that is in there, but spiritually.
Yeah.
Here's what I'm going to ask you to do. What is an area in your life that you cannot see spiritually. Maybe you don't see your future. Maybe you don't see that you are free. Maybe you're in bondage. It's time to break through. Maybe you think that you'll never go to your next level in spiritual maturity. Maybe something's holding you back. What is it that you need to take your time and the rest of your time in group to pray for that you could spiritually see and be set free?
Remove the blinders, yeah.
That's it. That's so good. Well, hey, we love you guys and can't wait for next week. We'll see you soon.